A question I get from my students is, what is the one simple three-word mantra to calm the nervous system? And is there one? And I gotta say, the answer to that question is yes, but there are some great three-word mantras out there. Om Namah Shivaya is a beautiful one, which, through my interpretation means thy will be done, right? It's about acceptance and let me greet the day with grace and love. But the real answer to the question is it depends. It depends on your own nervous system. And everyone's nervous system is a little bit different. So, in order to answer the question of why not one mantra for everything, and why our ancestors, the great yogis and yoginis and Ayurveda uh, uh, ancestors, were right in providing us a limitless collection of different mantras for different things. Um, we got to look inside and get down to the nervous system. So, when you're talking about your nervous system, the best way to think about it is to think about your vagus nerve. Okay, so the vagus nerve is the 10th cranial nerve. It begins at the base of your brain and it moves right along your spine and it innervates everything in what I call the breadbasket. Everything in your torso. So it innervates your lungs, your whole digestive tract, your sex organs, everything in there. So a lot of very important organs. And when the vagus nerve is stimulated, it activates the parasympathetic side of the autonomic nervous system, which means when the vagus nerve is activated, it activates the rest and recovery side of our nervous system. Many psychologists today say that we are in a chronic fight or flight, sympathetic activated state. We're stressed out and we're in a chronically upregulated, uptight, not healing, but more fight or flight. Are we going to fight? Are we going to punch somebody in the nose? Is something a threat? Right? Or are we in the rest and digest? And most of us in the United States are very rarely in that rest and digest side of our nervous system. See the problem? Now, everybody's nervous system is a little bit different because this vagus nerve, this wandering nerve is what it's also called, is a great receiver of input. 90% of the nerve fibers in the vagus nerve are what they call afferent or moving towards the brain, receiving stimuli from the body, from the lungs, from the digestive tract, and so forth. And only 10% of those nerve fibers are communicating back and sending commands and controls from the brain to the gut, for example. And when we're talking about the gut, we're talking about the digestive enzymes that get secreted. We're talking about how we digest, okay? But it's a rapid two-directional communication between our gut. As a nutritionist, I focus on the gut and the nervous system. And the vagus nerve is that connector between, okay? So, what impacts the vagus nerve? how often it gets stimulated, how it gets stimulated. If you don't relax and stimulate the vagus nerve to rest and digest, it kind of loses that capacity to do so well. Um, Other things that impact it are the way that you eat. If you eat a highly refined fast food diet, uh, you're communicating differently to your brain than if you eat a more whole food, plant-based, gut healthy diet that contains fermented foods and so forth. Okay, and a nutrient dense, lots of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, things that your body needs. So all of this determines the health of your nervous system. And this vagus nerve and the nervous system is nothing less than how you receive the world. So if and how a particular mantra works for you to address anxiety or depression or whatever it is, that stress that you're working with in your life, I mean, there's a simple answer, and of course it helps, right? But the deeper answer is it depends. It depends on how often you do it. It depends on the way that you eat. Do you eat that whole food, plant-based, heart healthy, gut healthy diet? Do you do relaxation regularly? And do you cultivate the emotions of rest and recovery? Do you know how to let go of petty things that don't really matter? It's a practice. Life is tough, and we have this ongoing barrage of information and so forth today. So this is not easy. You know how they say it's simple but not easy, right? So mantra is one set of tools, but it's not the only set of tools. And, when we work our mantra practice, it's best in the context of a whole lifestyle. That's why yoga, meditation, these kind of practices are so great because they really are a whole lifestyle practice. So if you're curious about what your next step is with exploring mantra for stress relief, mantra for anxiety, whatever it is, or a mantra to help you shift and change, your next step just might be to download my free workbook, Intention Mantra Affirmation. And we'll talk about affirmations as well, because they're kind of another tool that can be helpful in change. And you can download that free guide. It kind of gives you a little roadmap for the next step. And keep an eye open for my training this spring, 40 Days of Mantra. It's an online program you do from your home, and we're going to explore a whole range of different mantras, and we're going to chant together. It'll be fun. It'll be profound. Okay, so take care. Have yourself a beautiful day, and we'll be talking.